An ominous aura emanates from Serene's home. Serene can do nothing but watch as life slowly withers away from her beloved mother, Ariel. Even in her final moments, Ariel only wishes to secure her child. A mother's love is really unrivaled. Serene was only 7 after all. With a weak gesture, she reminds Serene of the paper she left behind. Time isn't on Ariel's side today. As she succumbs to her condition, she tells Serene to leave as soon as she dies. Tears form in Serene's eyes as she listens to her mother's final requests. Soon enough, Serene realizes that her mother's heart has stopped. With one last kiss to her mother's forehead, Serene honors her mother's request and leaves their home immediately. As she flees, Serene reminisces all the warm memories she shared with her mother. Little does her mother know that Serene is both her first and second daughter. Ariel was a mother of 2 daughters. A terrible disease took over her first child, and Ariel cried at the realization that her child was no longer alive. When Ariel was given a second daughter, she didn't know that it was her departed first daughter reborn into a new life. Ariel must have been such a kind woman for the universe to bless her with a second chance to love her own daughter. Serene then puts on her coat and takes the paper her mother left her. Before her death, Ariel casts a spell on the paper for Serene to follow. The paper leads Serene to a forest, but the blizzard and her own grief overcome her. A man in a winter robe and hood stumbles upon Serene in the forest and offers to help her. She quickly retorts that she has no means for medical expenses. The man shields her from the cold and carries her to safety. Serene voices out that she is mindful of his kindness since her mother had told her to be wary of strangers. Hearing this, the man reassures Serene that he only wishes not to see another person die again today, much more a child. Again? Perhaps he witnessed someone pass shortly before meeting Serene. Traveling amidst a blizzard must have taken a strong toll on Serene. As she wakes up, she realizes that she could have been baited and kidnapped under the pretense of help. Suddenly, she remembers what her mother warned her about. Ariel used to tell her daughter not to let anyone know about her pink hair. People might want to take and harm her if they find out. Suddenly, the man enters the room and Serene starts bawling. With all her child's strength, Serene tries holding him down. She cries and begs the man not to sell her for her pink hair. Astounded upon hearing this, the man tells Serene to calm down. He then gestures for Serene to ease up and look at him. Serene does as she's told, and her eyes marvel at him. He also has pink hair. I'm calling it as early as now. I bet Serene and this guy are related. The man asks Serene if her mother's name is Ariel. Serene's eyes form into big orbs upon hearing him say her mother's name. Even though she does not answer directly, her eyes provide a sufficient answer. Seeing her reaction to Ariel's name, the man confirms his hunch. He pulls Serene into a big, warm hug and caresses her. When he pulls back, he tells her that his name is Edwin Levashon. Edwin reveals that he is her father. I knew it! The pink hair kind of gave it away. He admits that he had searched for Serene and Ariel for years. She may not believe it now, but he hopes that soon enough they can both get to know each other in better circumstances. A blank but curious look appears on Serene's face. She often thinks of meeting her father, wondering why he was never present. Part of her wants to blame him for his absence, but now she finds herself unable to utter those words. The man before her holds so much pain. He looks like he's barely breathing. He looks like he's been through the same amount of pain that she experienced. Serene verbally expresses that she believes Edwin, and his eyes light upon hearing those precious words from his daughter. He warmly nuzzles Serene as if he was caressing a baby. Later on, Edwin and Serene leave the building they take refuge in. Serene realizes that Edwin has taken her back to the village where she and her mother spent their last moments together. Edwin soon tells her that he had moved Ariel to a more comfortable place she can rest in. As the two make their way through the village, a man strides next to Edwin and addresses him as Your Majesty. OMG, he has royal lineage. Edwin makes haste and confirms that the child Serene is the princess. Inside the carriage, all Serene could think of was the man addressing Edwin as Your Majesty. Girl, I feel you. Even I'd be shocked to know my father was actually the royalty. But wait, could her father be the emperor himself? Serene suddenly recalls her mother telling her that the emperor had 3 terrifying sons. Could her mother be the commoner concubine favored by the emperor? But that can't be right. In her memories of being the first daughter, she for sure remembers that her mother was no commoner. But why was it that her mother ran away and lived a commoner life when she became pregnant for the second time? Serene comes to a theory that maybe her dad from her past life and present life are two different people. If her mother truly is a concubine, then that means she'd be an illegitimate child. The Emperor's sons would definitely hate her. A million questions plague little Serene's child mind. All she can think about is that she will do her best to make her presence scarce. Maybe that way they won't kick her out and leave her alone. Soon enough, she surrenders her thoughts and falls to sleep. Upon arriving at the palace, another pink-haired guy makes his way to the carriage. When he opens the door, he finds Edwin cradling a sleeping Serene. Could he be one of the three sons of the Emperor? Even when Serene is in deep sleep, she recognizes that there is an unfamiliar voice speaking. Poor child, she must have been so worried to the point that even in her sleep she was still aware of her surroundings. Currently, the Crown Prince is conversing with his father, the Emperor, while Serene lays asleep in his arms. While both men converse, memories of Serene and Ariel replay in Serene's dreams. She recalls memories of them both over the seasons of the year. It still hasn't been a while since her mother's passing, but she finds herself missing her terribly. She believes that only her mother could love her unconditionally. Even though it was just them against the world, Ariel constantly reminds Serene that there are other people out there who love and care about her. As her dream fades, slowly Serene begins to wake from her slumber. When she finds herself facing a stern-looking mini version of her father, she strongly clutches Edwin's robe and pulls him close. Her brother definitely takes after their father's charm. Edwin introduces Serene to her oldest brother, and immediately her eyes enlarge at this news. Does he hate her already for him to look so cold? Both make eye contact, and when her brother reaches for her, Serene flinches. Her imagination already says he's angry at her. Her worries are quickly dispelled when she finds her older brother caressing her hair in a warm and loving manner. Aw, how cute! He's treating her with so much care. Immediately, he introduces himself as Theo Ursa Levashon, her oldest brother. He radiated such a bright and genuine vibe, it made Serene feel as though she was so loved. Surely his kindness towards her meant that she passed their standards, right? As the three make their way to the palace, a formal entourage greet them. Among them are Serene's two other older brothers who share the same pink hair characteristics. According to Theo, they too have been waiting a long time to meet Serene. With so much enthusiasm, the other two quickly introduce themselves. Lorraine, the second oldest, and Trail, the youngest of the princes. Serene compels herself to try her hardest to introduce herself as well. In a cute attempt, she tells her older brothers that her name is Serene. Hearing her voice for the first time, all three of her brothers melt away at her cuteness. The three gather around Serene and dote on their newly met sister. It seems so surreal for all of them to be blessed with such an adorable younger sister. Later on, Edwin carries Serene inside the palace to properly rest from the long journey. As her father carries her, Serene takes a peek at her older brothers behind them. All three are looking at her with so much adoration. Meanwhile, all three brothers pause to admire their cute little sister. It's safe to say that all three of them simply adore Serene already. The next day, all three brothers gather around Serene and their father as they begin their morning. When everyone takes a seat at the dining table, Serene takes an interest in a fluffy chair right next to her brothers. Seeing that Serene felt so joyous with the fluffy chair, Theo promises Serene that he'd give her a bigger and softer chair. Trail becomes competitive over Theo's offer. He too offers to send Serene a fluffy bed to enjoy. At this point, Theo and Trail stare daggers at each other, competing to please Serene. Not wanting her brothers to fight, Serene interrupts and thanks all of them for their kindness. Theo and Trail halt their squabble to listen to Serene. Theo softens his expression, and Trail can't help but sob at how cute his little sister truly is. Serene may be the Empire's princess, but she is also more of her family's little princess too. Later that day, Edwin calls for a doctor to examine Serene's condition. During the checkup, Serene admits that on regular days, she'd only be able to eat once or twice a day. A deafening silence takes over the room after Serene talks about her conditions prior to coming to the palace. They must have felt so bad for what Serene had to go through. All three brothers and even the Emperor try to lighten the situation by focusing on how Serene doesn't have critical illnesses. With a caring gaze, Edwin reassures Serene that she'll be all right from here on out. Back in her room, the attendants dress and ready Serene for dinner with her family. Being without her brothers now, she takes this time to reflect on how much her life has changed in a short span of time. Upon her mother's passing, Serene feels as though it was the end of the world. But now, even when she's in an unfamiliar place with new people, she feels at ease being surrounded by everyone's warmth. It feels as if she's always known this much love. When Serene enters the dining hall, all three of her brothers greet her enthusiastically. Everyone seems to be so eager for her to eat already. Not to mention, she looks really cute with her look. Seeing Serene enjoy her food gives her family a different kind of fulfillment. I guess they all just want to make up for her past experiences of being deprived of 3 meals a day. As everyone dotes on Serene, Edwin panics when Serene suddenly slows down and silences herself while chewing. Hurriedly, he calls for a doctor to come and help Serene. What if she was choking already? Serene takes a while to speak up, and when she does, she wraps her little hands around her father's own hands. She clears up that she was merely trying to thank them, but the words wouldn't come out. Hearing and seeing that Serene is all right, Edwin loses his composed demeanor and covers his face. He may be the emperor, but worrying about his daughter is still enough to put him in a helpless state. Serene is her family's joy. All 4 male royals feel a pang in their hearts as they hear Serene thank them for the most basic things. Edwin approaches Serene and gets down on his knees to be at eye level with his little daughter. With all sincerity, he thanks and apologizes to Serene for having to endure such conditions for a long time. He apologizes for not being able to protect her and her mom. No, it's not like you meant for all that to happen. Tears stream down Serene's face as she realizes that she wasn't the only one grieving for her mother. She understood her father's feeling of helplessness, for she too felt it upon her mother's passing. Edwin hugs Serene as she continues to cry in his arms. All 3 brothers phase at the sight of their sister crying. Later that night, Theo joins his father in Serene's room to discuss her past. His little sister is someone of the purest heart, but for her to grow up in pain and deprivation is downright one of the cruelest things Theo could imagine. As the two discuss, Theo could only think of wanting to protect Serene. Theo plants a kiss on Serene's temple as he promises to never leave her alone anymore. As Theo exits the room, he tells his father that he would get rid of everything that may harm Serene. Theo looks so attractive when he's mad and determined. While Serene sleeps, a dream of her mother plagues her once again. The dream is memories of her past life as her mother's first daughter. Even as she wakes the next morning, Serene could feel the unease of the dream as if it were reality. A commotion transpires early that morning as Laurent accidentally injures Serene when he carelessly opens the door and sends Serene flying a few feet back. Naturally, Edwin and the rest of the princes display outraged reactions at the mishaps. I think outrage is really an understatement. They all look like they want to turn back time to protect Serene from the door. The earlier events make Serene realize that even little mishaps that concern her are taken very seriously in the palace. She always thought that an illegitimate child like her would never be loved. So is it all right for her to be receiving all this love from her father and brothers? Nevertheless, Serene is grateful for all their care. She wishes she could reciprocate all their love and concern as well. Well, it's not like it's proven that she's an illegitimate child. There's still more to Serene's backstory than we know. But who would have thought that the Imperial men instantly like pink upon hearing that it's Serene's favorite color? The Imperial Palace is known for the beautiful flowers that grow behind the structure. Laurent offers to take Serene out to sightsee the beautiful flowers behind the palace. When arriving in the garden, Serene marvels at the blossoms all around. With a curious look, Serene asks Laurent how it could be so warm if it isn't even spring yet. Serene seems to be getting more comfortable with her brothers now that she's talking more than usual. Laurent's eyes light up at Serene's question. He eagerly shares that the whole garden is maintained by magic to keep it in good health. As the two converse, Laurent remarks that Serene resembles her mother so much. At the mention of her mother, Serene's mood dampens a bit. Oh no, I guess she's still affected by her mom's death. It's only natural to grieve anyway. Laurent is quick to catch on to her sudden mood shift and asks Serene what's wrong. The matter of her being an illegitimate child has been in Serene's mind for quite a while now. She always feels guilty for receiving so much love from everyone despite her status. How is it that Laurent can be so kind to her even though she's illegitimate? Serene tells Laurent of all the worries that came to her mind recently. Her worries have been keeping her from interacting with everyone wholly. Seeing Serene confess such deep worries saddens Laurent as well. In a hushed but gentle tone, Laurent reassures Serene that this is all a misunderstanding. In fact, Serene is of imperial bloodline, born from the emperor and empress of the land. Laurent emphasizes to Serene that she is just as royal and imperial as Theo and Trail. Serene's eyes widen as she hears Laurent's revelation. But soon shock overcomes her when Laurent clears up that it was actually him who was the illegitimate child. Even though Serene wanted to know more, Laurent could not tell her the entirety of it. In time, it would be their father himself who would reveal all things. Serene and Laurent's interaction is interrupted when Trail barges into the garden. Trail does his best to impress Serene, but she is ultimately won over by Loren's magic. In the end, Serene also acknowledges Trail and calls him bro. During dinner, Trail brags to Theo and Edwin about his achievement of Serene calling him bro. This makes Theo and Edwin jealous of Trail. If only Serene would call them something affectionate too. Trail is enjoying his bragging rights for real. In the end, everyone shared a good laugh over the experience. At one point, this interaction reminds them of a memory from the past. Long ago, in the very same garden, Theo beckons his father to come quickly. Repeatedly, he yells for his father to hurry. As soon as Edwin arrives, Theo excitedly shares that Loren had just called him brother. The moon shines brightly in the night sky as evening looms over the day. Serene retreats back to her room for the night where she is showered with compliments from her attending maids. It's not uncommon for maids to gossip. If I lived in a palace with attractive royals, I'm sure to gossip all day about their beauty. In fact, Serene hears a few rumors here and there by courtesy of maids who aren't mindful of their volume. Tonight, palace gossip concerns Serene's brothers. The staff are noticing that the brothers have fully pledged themselves to taking on their role as Serene's protector. It seems endearing to all of them how the princes focus on their new little sister now. Early the next morning, Edwin expresses his concern of Serene sleeping in a room alone. Thus, new sleeping arrangements are made to have Serene sleep in the Emperor's quarters. Seeing her father's puppy eyes, Serene couldn't help but agree to the whole situation. The last thing she wants is for her father to worry about her every night. Even though Serene is within a secure room, dreams of her past still plague her slumber. This time, her dream shows a different memory of her past. Her mother yells at her father about a curse being transmitted. When she wakes from her dream, her expression saddens as she realizes how much her parents were suffering because of her. Why can't her dream just show her more? She wants to uncover the entire truth already. The morning she woke from her dream, Theo noticed Serene's unusual silence. Concerned about his sister, he asks if the new sleeping arrangements had disrupted her sleep. What do you expect from Theo? He's the most protective of Serene. Serene reassures her brother that she's all right. But over the course of breakfast, she couldn't help but notice the strange glares her brothers are directing at their father. Could it be that they were jealous that Serene is spending more time with her father? That night, Serene experiences a nightmare that leaves her feeling crippled. Even though it was a dream, she could feel the pain she experienced in her past life as the disease spread across her body. Everything seems to hurt in her dream, and what's worse is that it was as if she could feel it in real life. Tears roll down her eyes as Serene wakes from her nightmare. In her dream, her body rots similar to her mother's. She was feeling extremely uncomfortable right now. As if on cue, her father Edwin wakes from his slumber as well. Having her father awake was enough comfort for Serene. The feelings from her dream are just too much to bear alone. To ease her mind, Serene decides to strike a conversation with her father, asking him what her mother was like from his point of view. Serene listens carefully as Edwin tries to describe Ariel, her mother, before she died. Ariel was beautiful, strong, and always radiant. In addition, she was also a very powerful wizard. There was no wizard in the Empire better than her. The facts about her mother seem to be interesting. Thus, Serene wishes to know more about her mother, as she finds her awesome. She says that she doesn't really remember the memories they had in her previous life. Edwin gets surprised by Serene's words. He then asks her what she remembers from her previous life. Momentarily, she cries because she thinks that her father might be angry with her. Shortly, he apologizes and comforts his daughter. Serene then tells him about the secret that she has been hiding for so long. It is all about the confusing memories of her previous life. She remembers her parents being in pain because of her illness, particularly the story of how Serene met her mother again in the form of a baby when she opened her eyes. After a while, she apologizes for hiding it from her father. There is a possibility that what she thinks she remembers then is not a previous life. Edwin explains that Serene was actually not reborn as the second daughter. The truth is that her mother used magic, so her body's time went back to before getting cursed. Serene is the first daughter of Edwin and Ariel. She must have been scared of hiding those memories all the time. He then apologizes for not knowing sooner and for hiding the truth as well. Back then, Ariel said that there was nothing to hide from the family, so momentarily, he decides to tell Serene's brothers about what they talked about as well. Edwin orders someone to call the princes immediately. Swiftly, Serene's 3 older brothers arrive with their faces full of worry. After listening to the story, Theo now understands why her memory was mixed up. As she grew younger, her 5-year-old self must have erased some of her memories. They conclude that Serene's memory capacity depends on her age. Her brother then assures her that it is completely normal. Now that they already know the situation, they decide to continue talking to her. Later on, Edwin tells her the story about Loran. After a few moments, Loran feels at ease knowing that he has his family with him. He is now ready to hear the story. The story goes back to the time when Edwin and Ariel first met. Even though she was a commoner, she was a wizard with strong magic powers. He couldn't resist falling in love with her, so he courted her endlessly for 2 years. Edwin kept getting rejected, but he didn't give up just yet. Eventually, Ariel gave in, and they were together in the end. It was then announced that she was the next empress. The people of the empire celebrated their wedding and proposed a toast. In time, Theo, their first child, was born into happiness. A year later, Loran's existence was discovered. Edwin is a busy man, but for Ariel, he always has time. Back then, Ariel opened up to him about the rumor of the Marquise of Perdon, who had brought an illegitimate child home as a matter of succession. The Marquise of Perdon is Edwin's only brother who didn't inherit the pink hair of the imperial family. His qualities fell behind in every way, so he didn't have the right to ascend the throne. Also, he was a dangerous man with endless ambitions. After marriage, he was struggling with issues around succession because he couldn't have children for 5 years. For Edwin, he doesn't care if his brother chooses an illegitimate child as his successor. However, thinking about the wounds the child would suffer due to the backlash from the nobles is pitiful. The unexpected news is that the child's hair is pink. The news about a non-imperial child with pink hair made it worthwhile for those plotting a rebellion. Edwin then decides to meet his brother and talk with him. He finds it interesting that someone who despised illegitimate children ended up adopting one. In Marquise's defense, he is already at the age of retirement, so having a successor makes it easier. Basically, he's just using the child to preserve his position. Due to his lack of trust in his brother, Edwin orders someone to investigate correspondence between the Marquise and the child's birth mother, including his current state and in every movement of those related to him. After a month of investigation, they found out that Loran's birth mother was the maid of the Marquise. She gave birth to his child by mistake after a one-night stand. Then, it was presumed that she died of excessive bleeding after giving birth. Edwin's hunch is that the Marquise might lead a revolt. However, he doesn't have enough cards in his hand right now, so he needs to observe more. That night, Edwin asks Ariel for her opinion about adopting Loran as their child, which means that he will accept him as a member of the imperial family. Without a doubt, Ariel agrees, since she wants to protect the little child as well. After 5 years in preparation for Theo's 7th birthday party, news broke about Loran. The news was that Loran, who was 6 years old at the time, was abused. It was right time for Edwin to handle the matter on his own, especially because Ariel was pregnant with their second child, and he doesn't want her to worry. At the party, everyone is congratulating Theo on his birthday. Later on, Ariel introduces Loran to her son. He is only a year younger than Theo, but he is so small. Meanwhile, Edwin discussed the matter with the Marquise. He made the decision that he would enlist Loran as a member of the imperial family. After making the decision, Edwin doesn't want to hear any more of his brother's opinion. He had already made up his mind to enlist Loran as part of the imperial family, with or without his brother's consent. Looking at Loran's current state after being abused by his own father, he lost the right to be his parent. The reason the child looks so skinny and pitiful is because the Marquise can't raise him right. His excuse is that Loran is a picky eater. That's why he doesn't eat much. Marquise is the worst! However, Edwin is confident that he can take good care of Loran like his own child. Meanwhile, the little boys are chatting. Theo introduced himself to Loran, who is very shy and doesn't speak that much. Edwin and Marquise watch the boys get along well together. At the Empire, he couldn't sleep properly because he kept thinking about Loran. Moreover, Ariel is scolding him because she wants the child to be taken care of under the protection of the imperial family. In the end, Marquise didn't have any other choice but to let Edwin go on with his decision. Later on, he announced at the party about a new family member. Loran Perdon, Edwin's nephew, whom the Marquise loves, will be enlisted in the imperial family. Also, he gave him a new name, which is Loran Arpash Levashon. Marquise couldn't believe what's happening, but he can't argue either. Edwin swore to try his best to give Loran as much love as Marquise does and make him grow up properly. The brothers are pretending to be nice to each other in front of the crowd, but deep inside, Marquise is already plotting for revenge. Afterward, Ariel checks on the kids. She notices that Loran looked fragile, and it was obvious what he had been through without watching. She then welcomes him into the family. Presently, Edwin expresses how he feels bad every time he thinks about the past, when Loran was very ill. Fortunately, he is now getting better little by little after living with them. Moreover, they wish they had a daughter back then, until Serene was born. In truth, Loran was happiest about her birth. He took really good care of her when she was still very little. Back then, Ariel asked Loran if he was having a hard time taking care of Serene, but he enjoyed every moment of them together. The family was really close and very happy. Those were the most precious and lovely days. However, the Marquise often went in and out of the Imperial Castle under the pretext of Loran, and for some reason, Edwin always sent him back. When Serene was 5 years old, an incident that occurred with the rebellion of the Marquise destroyed the Imperial family's happy days. Serene cried to her mother as she looked for Loran because she missed him. Ariel explained that her brother was practicing magic, so he shouldn't be disturbed. Later that day, there was suddenly an assassination attempt. Ariel got angry as she tried to protect Serene. She couldn't feel the magic from the enemy, so she wondered what trick he used. Moments later, Loran arrived with a smile on his face. Ariel knew it was dangerous, so she told him not to come all the way. Momentarily, she got attacked. Continuing the story of what happened back then, Ariel was able to survive the attack. However, Serene was caught by the enemy. The enemy threatens her, saying that if she does anything, her child will die. The Imperial family was commissioned to get killed, except for Loran. Admittedly, the enemy was asked to kill the princess as an example. Later on, Ariel finds out about the Dark Magician. She already knows that shadows and curses are the unique abilities of a dark magician. With that, she witnesses the enemy putting a curse inside Serene's body. When the curse was already built inside Serene's body, she immediately carries her into her arms after the enemy lets her go. In addition, she orders Loran to inform Edwin and his brothers about what happened. Meanwhile, at the Marquise's place, he celebrates after dealing with the Imperial family. His new era has begun, or so he thought. Not long after, Ariel arrives at the Marquise's place, which surprises them. They underestimated the Empress and her power. Actually, she was able to see the magic engraved on the enemy's body. That's why she was able to track him down. Everyone probably doesn't know how powerful the Empress is. Due to what the Marquise did to Ariel's daughter, she takes revenge and burns the whole place down. She tried everything so the curse would break. However, even the enemy who did it doesn't know how to break the curse. On to the next target, which is the Marquise. She points out how he only uses people as a tool, and the death of the Purdon family is his responsibility. Ariel tells him that neither his son nor his wife can escape. Not long after Ariel attacks the Marquise, Edwin arrives. Both of them cry as they watch Serene's situation. Since then, Edwin has searched the whole empire to find a way to break the curse. However, they were rare magicians, and only a few people knew about their existence. Moreover, rumors that the princess was carrying the curse spread throughout the world. Edwin wants those who are talking nonsense about the princess to get punished. Shortly after, Edwin received news from the nobles. They applied for a trial with the content of expulsion of the princess from the empire. However, upon hearing that, the emperor gets really angry. As a father and an emperor, he feels so hopeless. He then proceeds to Serene's room to check on her, but he finds Ariel awake and worrying. Edwin keeps reassuring his wife. He makes sure to find a way to break the curse. He promises to keep Ariel and their children safe. However, public sentiment continues to grow ferociously. The backlash from the nobles turned to the imperial family. With that, Edwin found a letter from the Empress. Ariel disappeared along with Serene. What Ariel goes through as a mother must have been unimaginable. After the day Ariel disappeared, Edwin searched all over the world for her. He searched anywhere where people said they saw someone similar to her. But as time passed, his fear turned to yearning. He started to believe that she was living somewhere happily and kept searching. Then 7 years passed just like that. The day he found her, he was heading home with no results yet again. But then he heard her voice. He traveled like crazy in the direction where he felt Ariel's mana, hoping it wasn't a hallucination. When he arrived at a small house, he saw Serene. He then cries as he blames himself for what happened. Serene reassured him that it was not his fault. Later on, he found Ariel's journal in the empty house. As time went on, the curse was taking over Serene's body, so she ended up choosing the last option. She decided to move the curse to her own body instead. At the present time, Edwin explains to his children that curses only work on the living. That's why she used her own life. Meanwhile, Trail cries while listening to his father's story about the past. In addition, with her remaining mana, Ariel reversed Serene's time and returned her to her body before it was cursed. They expected that she would find out sooner or later. A mother's love is really unconditional. Momentarily, Serene's brothers apologize to her for tricking her. Even if they're all sad or hurt, at least they will go through it together because they are family. From time to time, Edwin still couldn't help but wonder why Ariel did what she had to do. Just the thought of her taking care of her child alone and being scared makes his heart hurt. He thinks that maybe if he had given up when she rejected him, then she would have lived a happier life. However, he makes sure not to lose Serene again. He will protect what Ariel left behind. Not only is he as strong as steel, but also as gentle as a feather. Ariel indeed chose a good father to her children. The next day, Serene plays around the castle. She feels carefree and safe knowing that there are 4 men protecting her. Even though all of them are pretty busy, they make sure to take good care of her as they are living her second life with her. During dinner, Serene feels sad because her brothers are late, and she wants all of them to have dinner together. It was supposed to be a happy occasion until one of them disappeared. Serene's brothers arrive late for dinner. In Trail's defense, they were getting ready for a night expedition. The knights have to take care of some thieves at the border of the territory, and they will be gone for a month. He throws tantrums for having to leave for 1 month because that means he couldn't see Serene for that long. While the rest are preoccupied, Loran feeds Serene as he apologizes for being late. Momentarily, they notice that Serene is looking for something while frowning. She then asks for cake, so the boys immediately order to serve all the cake in the kitchen. Later that night, she ends up having a stomach ache. She is already in bed as she calls out to her father because she's hurting. Edwin gets worried, so he calls the Imperial doctor right away. It turns out that Serene is having a cold and an upset stomach. People her age get them every once in a while, so it's completely normal. However, Edwin is still paranoid, so he keeps asking questions. The doctor just gives him some medicine for her to take in order to get better in no time. The whole night, Edwin nursed Serene. The next morning, her brothers are trying to feed her since she can't take medications on an empty stomach. However, it seems like she doesn't have an appetite, but her brothers make sure she eats a lot. After 3 days, she finally recovered thanks to the care of her father and brothers. Although her family was kind of sad that they couldn't pamper her anymore, they liked that she was now healthier. While spending some quality time together, Loran compliments Serene for getting prettier each day. The rest of the boys agree. dedicating her very first letter to her father, right? But Serene is too embarrassed because of her bad handwriting. But Edwin assures her that the most important part of writing a letter is that she's putting in the effort. She then makes the decision to write a letter to her father. Later on, she makes one for each of her brothers. Aww, she's the sweetest! Serene spends her full day pondering what to write in the letters. Serene goes to her daddy's office, carrying her practice letter for him. The royal guards immediately request for an audience with His Majesty. Look how smitten those guards are with the beautiful Serene. Then, with not yet being called, her father asks if Serene is outside, like some ghost. Serene hands her letter shyly, and the ever-kind Serene worries if her father is busy with her letters. As her father reads the letter, Serene's shame index increases alarmingly. Adorably, rather. Look at those cute, shivering reddish faces. Serene dashes for a walk, attempting to avoid the situation, but her father reads the letter containing the most powerful phrase from his own daughter. The letter only writes the most heartwarming words a father could ever receive. Serene wrote that she loves him, killing Edwin with happiness. Edwin calls his daughter to stop running, telling her how much he loves her too. Also, he doesn't want her to tell her brothers about it. Surely it would have been a headache if they knew. Serene thought that afternoon was as warm as her daddy's arms. Then, the days at the Imperial Palace passed slowly, yet quickly. It's been a week since Trail left. The maids worry that Serene's face is in deep gloom, waiting for the letter from Trail. That day, the Grand Duke of Sperato visits the palace with his children. Serene wants to greet them, who are the same age as her, but it is etiquette for those of lower status to make a greeting first. While thinking of what to do, Serene is too nervous to receive greetings when suddenly the young prince appears in front of her. Such a handsome kid! He gives his greetings to Her Highness Serene, whom he describes as the little star of the Empire. So sweet of him. He then introduces himself as Jay Sperato, along with his sister, Lisa Sperato. Serene tries to make a greeting too, even though she's too nervous. Jay is about to say something when suddenly Lisa runs towards Serene with sharp eyes, hungry for something. Serene's now getting more anxious with all of Lisa's absurd questions. Lisa is obsessing over Serene's beauty, even comparing her to a fairy or an angel. Well, Lisa, you're cute too, but indeed, Serene is like Aphrodite in disguise. Lisa is not content with everything she's saying. She further goes into details like how Serene's eyes shine like a leaf of grass in the dew, and even her hair is just too wrong for the word human. Again, questioning her identity and whether she's a spring fairy, because if not, how could such a beauty exist? Fangirling mode, are we, Lisa? Jay is now getting embarrassed on behalf of his sister, so he covers her mouth to stop this frantic display of obsession and apologizes for Lisa's lack of etiquette towards her superiors. Serene covers her face because she's too embarrassed by all the praises Lisa mouthed like nothing and sprints away from the two as her voice echoes through the hallways, saying that she's glad to meet them too. Typical Serene. Their father arrives shortly, and they talk about how they met the princess and how odd it is that the princess looked younger than her age. On the other hand, Lisa is only interested in being close to the princess, which is why she wants to attend Lady Shella's tea party, since Serene will be there too. Contrary to rumors, Serene went beyond Jay's expectations and caught his interest. For someone who's a member of the imperial family, Serene is very transparent with her emotions. He can't help but to think how interesting of a girl she is. Lady Shella's tea party finally came, but Lisa's excitement drowns in disappointment when she finds out that Serene isn't around. I guess there won't be a Celisa moment for this episode. What angers her more is that everyone just came to stick their nose on the princess, who disappeared for years after being cursed and suddenly appeared in a healthy state. Some say that the curse is gone because of God's love, but some say that the curse is gone because the Empress took her own life after getting caught making a self-made play. Lisa can't take it anymore, so she snaps out and tells them not to talk behind someone else's back. Little Lady Shella acts regretful of her words, while the others try to comfort her, telling her that Serene is the one who refused her invitation. Lady Shella continues to act fine, and that the princess might have been uncomfortable with this place, blaming it on her upbringing in the slumps, hence, she lacks etiquette. This kid and her unsolicited opinions. Such a pretentious face should just shut up forever. Meanwhile, Lisa's trying to calm herself. She's gripping her last thread of patience to these spoiled brats. But hearing how Lady Shella points out that maybe the princess can't come is because of the curse that still remains in her body. Lady Lisa can no longer tolerate her, so she knocks down her teacup and tells these princesses that they can kill someone with their words, especially of the things they don't even know about. Most importantly, it's a crime to insult the imperial family, according to the imperial law. Show them, girl, show them! The epic phases are so evident when Lisa points out the way they talk. Well, it is the same as how they look. Lady Lisa then uninvites herself to the next tea party and walks out of the room. Slay, girl. Meanwhile, Serene is in the library when her maid tells her that His Majesty is calling her. She's confused as to whether she pertains to her daddy or Trail. She's kind of hoping for the latter because of the letters she's been waiting for some time now. Serene dashes with all her might to see who's calling her, but an unfamiliar man appears in front of her with her daddy. Oh man, look at those broad shoulders. But surely this man is already married, so back to the story. Tired from all the running, only to come across with a stranger on the way, Serene runs to her daddy and hugs him. Oh, so cute. I want to hug your daddy too, Serene. Anyways, the man then introduces himself as Ain Sperato, the Grand Duke of Sperato and the father of the young prince and princess Serene met. The Grand Duke came to apologize on behalf of his daughter, Lady Lisa, for the disrespect she showed to Serene. Rather disrespected, Serene tells the Duke that she's grateful to Lady Lisa for complimenting her. The Grand Duke can't help but compare the kindness of Serene to his daughter, who just a while ago called him a fish head. Edwin tells Ain how lucky he is to have a daughter who doesn't need friends because she already has her daddy, low-key boasting to Ain's face that he didn't have a daughter like Serene. Ain tells Serene how Jay, his son, wants to meet her in person in order to apologize because he didn't feel at ease after sending her away. I'm smelling some potential. The Emperor and Duke exchange banters with each other like kids as Edwin senses the meaning behind Ain mentioning his son. They should get embarrassed with Serene's innocence. Spare the child, sirs. The Emperor then changes his mood and tells Serene that she was called because of the letter from Trail. Serene can't be happier with it. As Serene steps out of the room after bidding her goodbyes, Edwin and Ain then talk about the recent commotion at the tea party where the princess was invited. Days later, snow piled up outside. As Serene reminisces about the time she reunited with her daddy on a winter day, Edwin, together with his sons, deliver sad news. Trail has disappeared. 3 years ago, the same news arrived in the palace. Trail had disappeared and came through the Knights Templar. The Emperor ordered them to broaden their search scope to look for any traces of the prince. The search operation continued for 3 days but did not yield any results. One night, Theo heard a noise from the kitchen, but as he walked in there, he saw Trail munching on food. It appeared that Trail did not know how worried they were for the past 3 days because he just acted as if nothing happened. After that, Trail would suddenly show up several times days after he disappeared. Edwin, Theo, and Loren comfort their little princess that Trail will definitely come back safely. When Serene falls asleep after crying for a while, the Emperor and his sons talk about the status of the current search operation. Trail disappeared near the forest, seemingly erasing his traces as he went. Worried and annoyed, everyone is wondering if he was deliberately avoiding people. The heavy snow is making it even harder for them to search for him. Ran then asks his father that if Trail comes back, he should hit him hard. Theo, now getting irritated, promises to beat his brother by himself for making Serene worry. How dare he make our precious Serene cry? The next day, Serene tries to think positively, but her brothers are thinking otherwise. 3 days before Trail was missing, the expedition ended early as Trail wanted. Out of nowhere, Trail told his vice captain that he couldn't go back early. Trail meaningfully said that there was something else in the place except for him. He then ordered the vice captain to lead the army to the village and wait there. Suddenly, a dark force hits them. Just then, a kid appeared. Trail remembered the tragic event that greatly affected his family years ago. The kid in front of him was one of the dark wizards who he thought were already wiped out. He instructed the vice captain that if he wouldn't be able to come back at midnight, they should depart to the Imperial Palace first. The kid seemed to have a lot of experience in battles, but Trail was no ordinary knight. In fact, he was the third strongest knight in the Imperial family. He then asked the Dark Wizard of the countless people he must have killed. The Dark Wizard was caught off guard, angrily defending himself. He unleashed his dark power, which was supposed to eat anyone who'd come in contact with it. However, Trail quickly got rid of it because he still needed to go back home where Serene was waiting for him. Poor Trail, he doesn't know what awaits him in the palace. He'd surely sleep for days. That morning, Serene dreams that she is in a magical garden. Suddenly, Trail's silhouette appears far from her, uttering words she can barely hear, reassuring her that they will reunite soon. The dream fades, and as soon as she wakes up with tears escaping from her precious eyes, she races to the balcony, hoping to find her brother, but there's no sign of him. With all her misery and longing, she accidentally tumbles down the balcony as she pitches forward. Luckily, someone catches her. The scent of the wind Serene yearned for. Finally, Trail's home with a big smile on his face. Amid Serene's mixed emotions, betrayal, worry, and anger, Trail tries consoling her while apologizing. To avoid catching a cold, Trail attempts to bring Serene inside and see if their father and brothers are mad at him. Speaking of the devil, Edwin appears, welcoming Trail and telling him that he missed his son, all while cracking his knuckles. Feels like somebody's about to be buried alive. Edwin calls Serene over, but Trail refuses to let her go. Theo, looking tired and angry, arrives, and his presence sends chills down Trail's spine. Despite Trail's shaking nerves, he tries reasoning out by showing the dark mage that he tied up for interrogation. But this time, Edwin won't accept Trail's explanations, seemingly tired of his excuses. Suddenly, a forceful blow lands on Trail's head. That must have hurt. Theo asks Serene if he should teach Trail a lesson, and she grumpily agrees. Before Trail can even complain, Theo urges him to clench his teeth and endure it. They were dead serious discussing how many punches they'd land on Trail. After this heavy reunion, a typical scene unfolds in the palace. Theo and Rand fawn over Serene, even untangling her hair. So adorable. Suddenly, Theo is being summoned for an urgent matter. After a while in the dungeon, the Dark Mage slowly regains his consciousness, knowing that punishment awaits based on his answers or death if he stays silent. Trail finds himself confined to his room due to his actions. His father, attempting to console him, affectionately tousles his hair, assuring him that as long as he is unhurt, everything will be okay. Thinking that everything will be fine now, he asks about his probation, trying to be as pitiful as possible. But his father says that he should sleep for now. Edwin really is something. I mean, he was being so sweet with Trail, and now what? Poor Trail. In the dungeon, the interrogation begins with the Shadow Mage, Ian, who reveals his name amidst shivers from the cold. According to his story, he fled from the evil tower wanting to ask for help. That's the reason why he approached the night team. Edwin inquires about the tower's location, but Ian fearfully wishes to remain in the safety of the dungeon. Regardless of whether Ian is telling the truth or not, they need to see his memories. They believe that the power of this kid can help them figure out how to break the curse, so they summon Rand for help. Rationality eludes Rand in his hatred towards shadow mages that even a child like Ian is no exception. In fact, he strongly desires their destruction. But still, the fact that they're doing it for Serene's sake, Rand begins to sneak into his memory and finds out that the child was telling the truth. Ian has been tortured since he was 5. After improving his shadow mage's power, he was forced to follow the evil tower's orders to kill some villagers. But because of the magic seal engraved on his neck, he had no choice but to execute the order or the seal would explode. Despite the cold, he continuously concealed his traces after escaping from the evil tower, hoping to find someone who could help him. And when he found Trail conquering the bandits, he ended up following them. Although Rand destroys the seal, he refuses to heal the kid. But at least, those dark wizards from the evil tower will assume that Ian is already dead. Rand then visits Serene, who's sleeping so soundly, admiring her beauty over and over again. Well, I can't blame him. The kid is too much of a candy in the eyes. Suddenly, he remembers the Shadow Mage as he kept looking at his sister. It angers him to think of those evil tower bastards engraving such things on children. Despite being engraved, that kid still didn't get caught and even managed to come all the way to the palace. The nature of different powers is the reason why he could get rid of the tracing magic and escape. Rand thinks an investigation will answer his questions, but for now, he'll savor the moment watching over his pretty sister. However, Theo steps in the room and scolds him for disturbing Serene's precious sleep. Suddenly, Theo realizes something. He wonders what would happen if a normal person looks at Serene. And by normal, you mean not blood-related? Well, he who looks at Serene would definitely fall in love at first sight, so there will be a problem if that Shadow Mage kid sticks to Serene. Trail then divulges that their father plans to train the Shadow Mage to become Serene's guardian. Deep in thought, Edwin gazes at the kid resting in the surveillance room. Dark wizards cause Serene immeasurable pain. Such presence of the child triggers his thoughts about how the Empress could still be alive if not for them. Edwin clenches his fist out of anger as he remembers how the tragic past alters their family's destiny. And so, the resolve forms in his mind. He must eliminate this threat before it steals another cherished soul. Yet the kid cries in his dreams, apologizing for being the lone survivor to his parents. This halts Edwin, forcing him to confront his own humanity. Staring at the radiant moon, Edwin feels the void left by Ariel, engulfed in a desolate loneliness. Meanwhile, in Serene's room, the two brothers continue debating about their father's decisions. Serene wakes to their commotion, prompting Theo to halt the discussion. Quite late for preserving her beauty sleep, Theo. Morning arrives. Rand, with a serious face, faces Ian, seemingly evaluating his existence. Now at the Imperial Palace, Ian's daily routine involves sword training in the morning under the third prince's guidance, academic studies, etiquette lessons in the remaining time, and nightly curse-breaking practice with Rand. All for the person he will be protecting. Rand warns Ian of the stringent expectations tied to Serene's protection, emphasizing a life of agony for missteps. Ian appreciates the safety of the palace where he doesn't need to starve or harm anyone. Also, protecting someone here is enough for him. And so Trail commences Ian's swordsmanship training. He marvels at his exceptional skills and unique potential, foreseeing Ian's future impact. If this kid gets stronger without proper guidance, he will surely be a threat to them. Curious, Trail asks Ian what he possesses that he can entrust to his younger sister. Caught off guard, Ian faces Trail's intense gaze, hinting at a willingness to end him. However, the tense moment dissipates as a sweet voice interrupts. Ian witnesses Trail's fierce eyes soften into warmth as Serene approaches. Stunned, Ian ponders if this is the person he's destined to protect. Their eyes meet and Serene recognizes Ian from his past captive state, now wondering what has changed. Trail explains Ian's training as a knight. Ian is even more surprised when Serene expresses relief at his freedom. Concerned for Ian, Serene welcomes him warmly and encourages his knightly aspirations, showcasing her kindness. She also encourages him to work hard to become an amazing knight like his brother. Oh, it's so sweet of her. Serene is a sunshine regardless of who she meets. When Serene bids goodbye, Trail becomes 10 times more ruthless towards Ian. Stop being so jealous of everything, Trail. At first, Serene feels scared because of the fact that he's a shadow mage, but the look people are giving him is much more frightening. She thinks Ian must have endured those eyes all alone until now. That must be the reason why she empathizes with Ian. Suddenly, her father lifts her up and asks what she is thinking about. Serene immediately responds that she's thinking of the book How to Deal with People Special Edition. Smart move, princess. Keep that book's purpose to yourself, or it might spark more jealousy. Out of nowhere, the Great Duke Ain shows up with his children, young Master Jay and Lady Lisa. Like a true princess, Serene apologizes about the last time. She explains it was her first time meeting someone her age, so she didn't know what to do. Still, Serene expresses her gratitude to them for coming. Lisa, being an ardent fan of Serene, is unable to shake off the princess's overwhelming beauty. However, Serene wonders why Lady Lisa is wearing a mask. Little did she know. A few hours before coming to the palace, Lisa was supposed to stay in the mansion because she'd just lower her dignity if she tagged along, but she insisted and promised to behave. So her father set a condition. Lisa shouldn't be saying anything because the princess might be hurt by what's coming out of her mouth. Hence, the mask. Serene worries that it might be uncomfortable for Lisa to wear that, so she finds another way. She leads the siblings to her favorite place. There, Serene coaxes Lisa to remove her mask, using her authority just to hear Lisa's voice. Finally unmasked, Lisa pours out her affection for Serene in an overflowing emotion, like she's making an impassioned declaration. If this keeps up, they will surely become the best of friends. Watching the princess bond with his sister, Jay sees how Celine draws people in effortlessly. Command isn't just about obeying, it's about using words powerfully. So he realizes that Celine is that kind of person. Jay slowly comes closer to Celine with such gentleness as he excuses himself for fixing her bow, causing her to blush. Dazed with his handsomeness, she thinks Prince Jay shines like a jewel. Just look at those eyes! It's a crime to be this handsome. Embarrassed by her lengthy staring, Celine immediately redirects her attention to Lisa by offering her a cake, which Lisa gladly devours. This results in Celine worrying if Jay's sister had forgotten her table manners. Anyway, Jay wants to visit her more often, but he worries if Celine will be uncomfortable with it. Meanwhile, Ain comes looking for Edwick, who he finds is watching over the Empress's body. They note how her body has recovered as if she was alive. Aang asks him why the Empress's body did so, and he recounts the latter's testament in which her body should be cremated. As Edwick stares at his wife, he tells Aang the reason for this bizarre phenomenon. Apparently, it's because of the promise the Empress broke. She promised to be back soon, but obviously, she failed in keeping that. Furthermore, they talk about Aang's wife's recent journey into the Evil Tower. In her investigation, they found out that the case of Marquess Purdon and the reason behind why the Empress had to run away as if she was chased was because of the Evil Tower. And so Aang asks His Majesty about his connection with the tower itself, as the former himself isn't sure whether his wife hid due to it being tied in history with the royal or not. Edwick then reveals the truth, though it was stated that the Empress hailed from the Eastern Empire. But given that she came from the Eastern Empire, Ariel actually is also a witch from the Evil Tower. If you think about it, it really is a rare thing for witches to come from the eastern parts. But Edwick thinks that her being part of the Evil Tower can't be the reason for the enemy's obsession with the Empress, because coming from the Evil Tower helps people gain huge magic power, resulting in Ariel becoming the next master of the Evil Tower. Shocked by the revelation, Aang immediately understands the situation. He tells Edwick that both Ariel and Edwick are a match made in heaven, as both are with great powers. He asks Edwick what he will do with the Evil Tower, or if chasing is still in the plans, but Edwick thinks those are just unnecessary for the Empire's future. On their way out, they see their kids having tea. Aang asks him why he chose to give up the master of the Evil Tower in the future. Edwick stares at his daughter and can't help revisit that same conversation with Ariel in the past. Ariel once told him that a position as a master of the Evil Tower, though admired by everyone, is something weird for her. Seeing the world outside the palace made Ariel think differently. She was once offered a piece of bread. It may be nothing special. Those people still crave it but willingly share it with someone like her. Ariel then challenges him for a bet about maybe someday he will give up everything for nothing special, something he hasn't found yet. As Edwick stares at his daughter, calling to him, he knows how he met the person he's willing to bet everything for. During a crisp, sunny day, Ian finds himself laying in a field under the shade of the trees. The boy with golden eyes seems to contemplate about someone not being inclined to forgive him. Whatever the case, he expresses his fatigue out loud to himself. He's gotten to the point where he finds it hard to move even his very limbs. Still, despite the current less-than-ideal situation he's in, the boy admits that at the very least, the food there was great. Suddenly, while Ian gazes at the sky, Celine comes into the frame, replacing the sunlight with her bright smile, though also ruining the serenity and peace of the moment he's having. Ian is flustered by the sudden appearance of the princess. Celine asks him how he is doing so far and gives him a cake as a snack so that all his tiredness goes away. To avoid confusion, Celine tells him it doesn't mean anything special, it's just the only help she can do for him. Although Celine hopes he will accept it, it seems Ian is wondering if he has the right to accept such kindness. As he is about to tell her that he can't accept it, he loses his balance, which all the more fuels his pessimist side, and falls on the ground with Celine. As they exchange their care for each other, they notice that the cake had also unfortunately fallen on the ground. But with no hesitation, Ian picks it up and eats it, telling Celine that he's used to eating food that was dropped on the ground. Saddened by how Ian is used to things he shouldn't get used to, she tells him that from now on, he should not eat anything off the ground or floor. She tells him she will be back tomorrow and bring something better for him. Just thinking that they can meet again, Ian wonders what his hopes are getting up for. I'm smelling a potential over here. Meanwhile, Trail is watching Ian from afar, angry with how Ian dared to drop the food Celine made and bothered by how Ian acts so indifferent to his sister. Like Trail? Read the room. While snacking together, Celine plans to bring the cookies they are eating for Ian tomorrow. But Trail can't accept the fact that Celine is caring for Ian. He can't help but oppose. Celine is shocked at Trail, calling him selfish, mean, and lacking sympathy to his face. Trail is devastated, especially when Celine tells him she's not talking to him anymore and walks out. Theo and Rain can't help thinking if Ian has casted a spell on their beloved sister, and they're also not impressed with Celine and Ian's closeness. Ugh, these men should just chill. As Celine rethinks her attitude towards Trail, Mel, her maid, tells her that her brother must have been jealous because people tend to be childish when it comes to sharing someone important to them with others. Trail is in bed thinking about what he did wrong, along with refusing to apologize first when a knock interrupts him. Upon knowing it is Celine, he dashes like a madman to find his sister holding a box. Celine gives him her favorite cake so that they can make up. She tells him giving something she likes the most to him means Trail is more important than anyone else, including even Ian, so he shouldn't be jealous. Celine sure is more mature than her brothers. Hearing those words from his sister, Trail can't help but lift Celine in adoration and tell her that he loves her more. Meanwhile, Ian is just staring at the windows when Rain comes and eventually asks him what curse he possesses. He remembers the scene a while ago when he was about to help Celine up after they fell down, but he stops himself because Ian's touch could curse and turn all creatures into ashes. Upon learning about Ian's curse, Rain is intrigued, as it's the first time he's encountered such a curse. Curses, like flowers, come in various forms, yet there's no clear answer on how to dispel them. Rain inquires about Ian's control over his powers. Ian asserts his ability to cast curses at will with no instances of losing control since the beginning. But the distinction between a witch, a dark mage, or simply someone with power lies in the ability to wield that power effectively. Using a bowl as a metaphor for the body, Rain emphasizes the importance of Ian mastering his abilities. As the bowl expands, so does the contained power. Conversely, if the vessel remains flawed, it risks being overwhelmed by strength. Rain reveals Celine's curse, recounting the horrifying ordeal where her body decomposed and reverted to childhood due to the actions of a dark mage. Ian is shocked by the story, realizing the extent of Celine's suffering caused by a dark mage. Rain vividly recalls the pain of watching Celine fight for her life, and his desperate attempts to save her by rewinding time, only for her to endure a cruel fate. Celine continues to bear the scars of her past, haunted by nightmares and fearful of strangers, yet her spirit remains resilient, lifting his mood once again. Understanding the animosity of Celine's brothers towards him, Ian wonders why Celine treats him with such kindness. Rain attributes Celine's kindness to her innate goodness, her unwavering honesty, and her refusal to discriminate against anyone, and accepting Ian has been a significant decision for them, so he urges Ian to do his best. The following day, as promised, Celine returns with snacks for Ian. Look at her excitement! She really is the sweetest. Grateful, Ian thanks her but insists she need not bring him snacks anymore. Celine, initially enthusiastic, is saddened by his refusal, believing Ian shouldn't feel guilty about something she genuinely enjoys doing. Determined, Celine charges at him, insisting they meet again the next day, startling Ian. This routine continues for days, with Celine persistently seeking Ian's company. Ian grapples with the dilemma of the ongoing meetings, realizing there may be no end in sight. One day, he confronts Celine, questioning why she goes to such lengths for a dark mage like him. He lists his sins, abandoning those who are with him, fleeing the magic tower alone, and using curses to kill countless people. Celine's shock is evident as Ian questions how she sees him now, wondering if he still looks pitiful in her eyes. Ian tells Celine she shouldn't approach him, feeling unworthy of her kindness. He silently suffers, haunted by past events, determined not to let anyone get hurt because of him. With a cold demeanor, he rejects Celine's offerings, feeling uncomfortable and burdened by her gestures. Seriously, Ian, stop hurting her! Despite his harsh words, Celine tries to smile and apologizes for being selfish before leaving. Her tears tug at the heartstrings. After that encounter, Celine hasn't come back. Theo visits Celine, alarmed by her pale appearance. Celine's mind races, needing to confirm if Ian's words were true. Seeing his sister's devastation, Theo confirms the truth, explaining the dire circumstances that forced Ian into such actions. Ian's family was held hostage, and he had no choice but to comply. The magic tower subjected him to torture and experimentation, reducing him to a slave. Since their mother never disclosed anything about the magic tower, Theo believes Celine needs to know. The magic tower, a sovereign entity without allegiance, held arrogant beliefs in witch supremacy, pursuing knowledge at any cost, even experimenting on living beings. Their mother, titled Archmage, was the most ominous adversary. The tower's attempted abduction of her provoked fierce retaliation from their father, escalating into war, eventually won by the Empire. Undeterred, the tower resorted to branding them as dark magicians, turning children like Ian into tools of murder. Celine struggles to comprehend such atrocities. Theo explains that magicians operate devoid of morals or ethics. Still puzzled by Ian's avoidance, Celine learns he fears harming her due to his inability to control his powers. Suspecting something more, she questions if Ian knows about her curse, prompting Theo's guilty flinch. He justifies keeping it secret for their safety is not good. Relieved, Celine realizes Ian's actions are because he cares and not from hate. Meanwhile, chaos brews at the Sperado mansion as Lisa seeks to deepen her friendship with Celine. Jay mocks his sister's eagerness, engaging in a battle of wits with her, much to their father's amusement. Indeed, their fights have become more and more frequent as Celine came into the picture. As they travel, Ain reflects on his children's contrasting personalities. One quick to leave if things sour, the other resorting to fists before words. Jay, hesitant but adorable, confesses his desire to see the princess again, leaving his father charmed by his shyness. Jay informs his father of his desire to visit the princess and check on her well-being. Ain's smile widens at his son's words. As he watches the princess stroll through the palace grounds, he acknowledges her ability to bring warmth to their otherwise cold residents. He understands Jay's eagerness to see her again. Celine inquires if Ain is meeting the Emperor, to which he confirms. Learning that Celine is on her way to meet Ian, he feels a pang of sadness and pity for his son beside him. Despite his disappointment, Jay apologizes for not arranging a formal appointment beforehand. He admits it was impolite of him, but expresses his genuine desire to meet her. How can those dewy eyes be rude? Ain finds the situation absurd, watching his son behave as if they're discussing office appointments. Indeed, look at his expression marked by sadness and gloom. However, when Celine agrees to have tea with Jay, Ain feels a surge of pride for his son. Jay, suddenly rejuvenated, dismisses his father with a wave, indicating that he shouldn't interrupt their time together. The mood shifts dramatically. Jay can surely be cunning at times. Jay asks about the letter tradition, which Celine confirms is customary. It's the first time she'll be writing letters to people outside her family. Embarrassed, yet determined, she musters the courage to ask Jay to be her first friend if he is willing. Jay can't help but laugh at Celine's modesty, finding it an honor to be her friend. I mean, who wouldn't? Meanwhile, Rain eagerly awaits his sister at the library, only to discover she's having tea with Jay. Rain's outrage contrasts sharply with the pleasant scene unfolding between Jay and Celine. Just as they're discussing their likes, Jay confesses to Celine that he always thinks of her and misses her. Wow, well played. Before Celine can respond, Rain dramatically descends from above like a true magician, glaring at Jay with feigned innocence. Jay introduces himself with pride as Celine's newfound friend. Rain sarcastically remarks on their friendship and boldly declares himself as Celine's older brother. Irritated by Rain's intrusion, Jay expresses concern for Rain's neglect of his duties by rushing to Celine's side. Rain senses Jay's malevolence, exchanging meaningful and intense stares. Celine interrupts the tension, asking Rain to keep her indulgence in cake a secret from their father. Rain obediently agrees, gently wiping dirt from Celine's face and silently wishing Jay away. As the Sperados prepare to leave, Jay promises to send a letter soon, leaving Celine radiant. He tenderly touches her hand and kisses it, like a scene from a movie. Poor Rain, this must be torture for him. He reminds Jay to await the response he hasn't yet received. Celine's heart races, threatening to burst from her chest as panic looms. Jay tries to reassure her, insisting he didn't mean to put her in a difficult position. She fights to suppress a smile, feeling her cheeks flush with embarrassment. So cute. Jay departs. Celine attempts to convince herself that his kiss was merely a friendly gesture. Really? Meanwhile, Rain, witnessing Jay's audacity, casts a cleaning spell to rid his sister's hand of any trace of Jay's supposedly filthy mouth. Rain leads Celine to the ground to reveal his magical props. Arriving at the spot, Celine is puzzled to find nothing there, suspecting theft. Rain chuckles at successfully deceiving her with his magic. He demonstrates how he uses magic to transport items to another dimension, by firing a shot from his rifle. The rifle, unique in design, harnesses destructive power based on the user's magical strength. Its handling and reloading rely on both physical prowess and magical attributes, rendering it unusable to those without magical abilities. Despite Celine's apprehensions about her magical abilities, Rain reassures her and guides her through the use of a smaller gun, teaching her the proper stance. As Celine pulls the trigger, Rain is taken aback by the surge of power, but it's too late. Celine revels in excitement about her newfound ability to wield magic, while Rain's expression betrays profound shock. Rain grapples with how to explain the situation to their father, ultimately deciding to come clean. The men of the house convene, discussing the unexpected turn of events. Edwig and Rain had initially thought Celine was just a normal child with differences, but now they realize her potential exceeds their expectations. Concerns arise regarding Celine's fragile physical state and the danger posed by her untamed magic. They fear she may suffer the same fate as their mother if her abilities are discovered. Edwick resolves to have Celine trained in self-defense despite the risks it entails. Trail is tasked with honing Celine's physical strength, while Theo is entrusted with guarding their family secrets. As tensions simmer, Rain introduces another pressing matter: Jay Sperado. The mere mention of his name incites anger to them. As Ray recounts Jay's actions, the atmosphere in the room darkens. The group debates whether to censor the letters or destroy them outright, their focus momentarily shifting from Celine's magical prowess to the scandal involving Jay. That night, the wind blows against the window as a purple-haired figure enters the room with the grace of a mage. She observes Edwick, noting the stress evident on his face. Edwick is visibly irritated, particularly because she's the mother of the boy who dares to befriend his daughter. How can a father of four be this cute? She reports on the changes in MATLAB's track, emphasizing the difficulty in finding shelters and the challenges faced by those left behind. Edwick, his hair now black, instructs her to prepare for what's to come. Wait, what's happening? Can someone explain the hair? The next day marks Celine's training session to control her powers. Edwick assures her of her remarkable abilities, yet emphasizes their secrecy. He decides to go first to ease Celine's worries, determined to protect his children within the barriers he has built. Celine feels a sense of pride knowing her father is the Empire King, his encouragement fueling her determination. As they arrive at the training grounds, Celine faces challenges from the outset as expected. Ian excuses himself to call Trail while Celine contemplates her next move. Trail rushes towards them before she can speak to him, his actions fueled by adoration for Celine. Embarrassed by Trail's affection in front of others, Celine tries to maintain composure. Trail advises her to start with basic exercises and gradually increase the intensity. Celine attempts basic stretches but is surprised by her trembling. Ian can't help but compare her to a wooden figure. So rude! Trail, determined to find effective teaching methods, chooses kindness over criticism when Celine asks for feedback. Amidst their efforts, a loud thud captures everyone's attention. Celine is on the ground, embarrassed, while Trail's bitten tongue bleeds. Panicked, Trail rushes to Celine, his concern evident. Despite Celine's attempts to calm him down, Trail rushes her to the clinic, leaving Ian puzzled as they part ways, Celine mouthing a sorry in his direction. It's a peaceful afternoon. Ben is enjoying a pleasant time when Prince Trail comes barreling through her doors. With the princess in his arms, he hysterically pleads for her help for his sister's injuries. Recovering from Trail's brash handling and dizziness, Celine covers her eyes while Ben treats the graze she has on both knees. Trail continues his hysterics in the background as Theo arrives. Theo seems pissed, and he does not hesitate to tell his reckless brother about his faults. Trail hangs on to his brother, sobbing, as Theo goes to inspect Celine. Fortunately, the doctor assures him that she's fine. As if the room isn't busy enough with all the people already in it, a surge of teleportation magic signals the arrival of the king himself and Laurent, looking incredibly concerned for the little princess. Having witnessed all the ruckus caused by her family in Ben's office, Celine can only apologize to the poor doctor. The following day, Ben hears a soft knock on the door. The adorable Princess Celine emerges from the door. She reveals a bouquet of flowers and presents it to Ben. Celine shyly hides behind the flowers as she thanks the doctor for treating her and apologizes again for the ruckus her family caused. Ben graciously accepts the bouquet and points to the table where a bunch of gifts are all laid out. Everyone has given her gifts for yesterday's commotion as well. Earlier that day, Prince Trail came to her with a premium lunchbox as a gift. He was the one who came first to thank and apologize to her, as any proper gentleman would. Theo came to her and gave her meal vouchers from a famous restaurant, which can only be obtained personally from the place itself, so Theo himself went in disguise. The second prince then gave her lily flowers, and the king came by to give her a box full of tonics. Ben shows her appreciation to Celine for the gifts and for her family's respect for the people in the palace. She tells Celine about the time when they did not act as they do now. Before Celine's arrival, they did not care about their well-being, and they only wallowed in misery. When the princes were injured, they only came to her when instructed by the king. Among the three, the second prince tended to be seriously injured to the point where he was unable to heal himself due to mana depletion. Although she was able to assist them with their wounds, she regrets being unable to heal the hurt in their hearts. She thanks Celine for returning to them, as she's the only person who can heal her family's hearts. Celine looks at Ben, contemplating. She appreciates the older woman so much that she willingly wants to spend more time with her to play, not as a patient. After the meeting with Ben, Celine finds herself on the training grounds where she meets Ian. He's swinging a wooden sword at a dummy. He stops abruptly after being greeted by Celine. Ian stops training. He asks her how she is, and she responds with a demonstration. She dances so he can see that she's all right. Such a cutie. He blushes and timidly counsels her to be careful and to manage her energy for the sake of everyone. Oh my, these kids are adorable. The boy expresses his worry for her. Ian's sentiment gets to her and she realizes that her expectation of him has been right all along. He's a gentle soul. They talk a little about his training. Celine gets closer to him as she compliments him. He warns her before she can get closer. Respectfully understanding his boundaries, she apologizes and adjusts herself. Finding a respectable distance between them, she assures him and proposes to talk in this way for as long as they can, so that they may be able to close the gap someday. Ian is taken aback by Celine's suggestion. He blushes and shyly agrees with her. I really have a good feeling about these two. Theo calls out to Celine, grabbing her attention. He lifts her up and carries her in his arms. He also voices his concern for her and chastises her gently for being reckless with her body. Celine reassures him that she's doing well, and she proceeds to hug him tightly. She sees Ian, who is still standing in their vicinity since their talk was interrupted by Theo, so she waves at him, offering him a sweet smile. Theo sees the small interaction. His eyes glaze over, and his worries for her pile up. His protective brother mode is on. They start walking away with Celine still in her big brother's arms. The two decide to spend some time together before the other brothers arrive. She brings up her concern about her height, as she feels uncomfortable having such short legs. Theo suggests she eats vegetables, although she doesn't like it, she will have to grow up. Hearing their conversation, the king approaches them, announcing a carrot cake's inclusion for dinner. To Theo's annoyance, he takes Celine out of his son's arms and into his. Like everyone in the family, he also checks on her, asking her to tell him if she feels any pain. With all this worry and attention on her, she also wants to know if her family is ever in any pain, so she asks them to inform her of their well-being. Father and brother will oblige, of course. Somewhere, a gray-haired boy is concerned about not receiving the princess's letters. Jay ponders ways he can meet the princess again. He's called to attention by a beautiful blue-haired woman, his mother. She asks him about what he's thinking, but he quickly turns away from her, making her think that he must be keeping a secret. She feigns sadness over her son's indifference, and on top of that, she also fakes being angry in all attempts for him to open up to her. He sees through this and contemplates if he wants to tell her. Jay prays to the princess's image he has in his head for strength, still ignoring his mommy. In the background, she continues to try to urge him to speak. He starts to speak, slowly making up his mind, still afraid that she might laugh at him. She finds his hesitation adorable, and she continues to egg him on to tell her. Jay finally tells his mommy what he wants, to meet the princess. Shocked, she holds his cheek and stares directly into his eyes, confirming with him if it really is what he wants. Girls gather around for tea, and they greet Jay as he walks by. Lady Sperato follows him and observes him in the background. She happily teases her son a little bit before looking onto the other side of the garden, where the rest of the Speratos are. Lisa quarrels with her father, complaining about how people think they look too much alike. They do very much. They are such a chaotic duo. Jay continues smiling, keeping up appearances despite his other family member shenanigans. Lady Sperato continues to tease the boy. She's very excited when he told her about wanting to meet the princess because he usually doesn't express his feelings. It must be first love, she assumes. But Jay insists that he really wants to see the princess for a wholly different reason. Oh, are you now? Lady Sperato continues to sing praises of true love, making Jay more and more regretful of his choice to tell her. He's trying so hard to ignore her as she harps on him, building up an idea of forbidden love between the children. She promises to help him meet the princess unconditionally. Meanwhile, at the palace, the king is considering the Grand Duchess as the princess's etiquette teacher. He's against hiring her, but he must do what's best for his daughter. Back at the Sperato mansion, the Duke and Duchess discuss her new venture. She's to be Princess Celine's new etiquette teacher. He hesitatingly supports her despite his irrational jealousy, but she assures him that it's for the good of their son while keeping the rest of the details secret. The couple's conversation leads them to go lovey-dovey, something Lisa absolutely despises as she can hear them outside their room. She decides to go to her brother's room. Despite the maid's warning to stay away, she ignores her. Lisa walks into Jay's room and she sees him standing in front of the windows. She immediately confronts him about being banned from the palace. He turns towards her and looks at her coldly. He promises that the ban will soon be lifted. She finds her brother's claim rather strange, suspecting a civil war is at hand. He laughs at her suggestion. He considers what's coming as a return gift. Days later, Lady Sparado elegantly greets the king and the princess. The gift. Early in the morning at the Sparado estate, Lisa's voice rang through the halls, calling for her scheming brother. She woke up to find out that the gift he mentioned before was their mother. It's a shock to her. She regrets not knowing, concerned for whatever will happen with their rambunctious mother at the palace. At the royal palace, Mary Sparado greets the royals elegantly, impressing Celine. She also makes sure to guarantee her expertise in etiquette when the king voices his worries. Celine greets her friend's mom. She adorably speaks to the older woman, making the Duchess show her true color, which concerns the king. He immediately picks up on his precious daughter, finding the Duchess's behavior inappropriate, and he doesn't want it near his daughter. He decides to stop their arrangement, but Celine stops him. Her big, round, green, sparkling eyes stare at him directly. She lets him know she's willing to learn. She wants to be like her friend, Lady Lisa, who drinks tea looking like a maiden in a fairy tale. With that, she also wants to try drinking her tea without cream from now on. She's too cute. In response to the princess, the Duchess assures the little princess of her willingness to do her utmost to teach her lessons of etiquette. Celine beams at the older woman charmingly, making the Duchess want to bite her. I mean, I would too. She's adorable. Being the protective father, he once again takes Celine into his arms upon seeing the Duchess's hungry eyes. However, he still ends up allowing her to teach his daughter because Celine wants to be as graceful as the Duchess in her greeting after all. Now that it's settled, the Duchess introduces Celine to their first lesson, walking techniques. In the background, the king watches over his daughter, overseeing the lesson personally. Beside him is the Duke, watching over his wife. As the walking lesson goes on, Lady Sparado demonstrates to Celine elegant ways of walking. The men in the background observe. The Duke looks at his lovely wife with hearts in his eyes, while the concerned father beside him looms. Celine admires her beautiful teacher's demonstration, excited to try it herself. She carefully copies the Duchess's walk, and she does so wonderfully. So much so that she earns compliments from the lady and her proud father. Later that day, the siblings gather for tea. They ask their little sister about her lessons. Excited to show her brothers what she learned, Celine sits straight on her chair, takes the teacup and saucer in her hands, and proceeds to elegantly lift the cup from the plate. She beams at both of them, proud of her little achievement. The cuteness sends the two brothers reeling. Cuteness overload. At the Sparado estate, Mary ponders what to do. She has been teaching the princess and has been admiring the lovely little girl instead of talking to her about her son. She initially made plans on how to approach the princess, but when they met, Celine's cuteness made her forget. She gathers her determination. She has to come to her senses and be a good mother, to fulfill her son's love and help the princess, her future daughter-in-law. Jay lurks outside his mother's room. Seeing her drive makes him smirk to himself. His plans are coming to fruition with his mommy's help, so he can meet the princess again. At the palace, the maid serves Celine her tea, and she notices that the usually energetic child is down. The little princess is slumped on the chair, looking as sad as ever. Is there something wrong with her? Celine contemplates, her sad face reflecting on the tea in front of her. Jay told her before he left that he would send her letters, but she hasn't received any at all. She wonders if he only said that to be polite to her. Other than that, she notices that the people in the palace have been acting strange around her. The maids, knights, and even her friend Ian have been ignoring her. They hide when they see her coming and run away when she calls them. She wonders if they actually hate her. That's impossible, darling. Loren then arrives, placing his hand on her cheek and asking her why she's down. In response, Celine starts crying, making him panic. She tries to get the words out to tell him, but the words are interrupted by bouts of sobbing. Unsure of what to do, he takes her in his arms as he teleports them to Ben's office. Ben is enjoying her break time, just deciding to have a meal for herself when the papers in the room fly all over the place. Loren puts Celine down and leaves, trying to look for a way to make his little sister stop crying. Now that the older woman is alone with the princess, she politely asks what ails her. Celine stops crying to reply with another question: if Ben and everyone at the palace hates her. She tells the older woman about her interaction with the staff and her friend. It worries her that they might hate her for being a former outsider. Ben holds Celine's hand, and with all her sincerity, she does her best to make her feel better. She guarantees the child that they don't hate her. They are not avoiding her, but are only afraid to accidentally hurt her since it's a grave offense to do so. It would land them in jail or worse. She suggests to the princess to be careful so that the people around her will not be so wary. To approach them first and to greet them cheerfully daily. all so that they can warm up to her naturally. Celine takes Ben's words to heart. Her words make her understand her feelings, and she now knows what to do. She just needs the courage to do so. She thanks the doctor wholeheartedly. Loren then arrives, entering the room using magic. In his hands is a bouquet of roses. He nervously offers the flowers to Celine, who accepts and is very grateful for his gesture. The siblings hug and share a moment together. Another crisis averted. Now that she's fine, they have to clean up the mess in Ben's room caused by rain. Ben thanks the siblings in advance, but this has happened twice now and she can't let it happen again. At the king's office, he stops working as he hears a knock on the door and he invites them in. Ben enters the emperor's office. She immediately updates him about the recent mess episode in her office. She informs him that his daughter has been crying due to worries unbeknownst to her and her confusion about how people at the palace are avoiding her. The doctor also mentions the letters from Lord Sperato that Celine has been expecting. She knows right away that it was the king who did it. She understands him as a parent, but Celine must have the freedom to expand her world. She suggests that the princess spend more time with children her age so that she can share and sympathize with them. While Ben is talking, the king carefully considers her notions, willing to do what's best for his daughter. He wants to protect her as best he can, but he also has to give her freedom. A couple of days later, a carriage approaches the royal palace carrying the Lord and Lady Sperato. Lisa sits up on her seat, looking out the window, visibly excited to meet the princess again. Jay, on the other hand, catches a glimpse of a black-haired boy in the palace grounds, and they briefly catch each other's attention. When they get to Celine, she is there waiting for them. She runs towards her friends. She shyly admits that she misses them and that she's happy to play with them again. Jay is taken aback by this sudden confession and he hangs back. Oh, he likes her. Lisa runs to her, declaring her love for Celine. She catches the little princess in her arms and they hug. In the garden with cakes and tea served, the friends catch up. Lisa complains and claims she has suffered from being around other people she doesn't like, and Jay ignores her all the time. Celine suggests they write letters to each other so they can correspond. She makes sure to offer it to Jay as well, her way of reminding him about his promised letter. He apologizes to her and reasons that the letter was sent to the wrong address. He also promises her to be careful next time. At the palace library, Loren and Theo meet as they are unable to concentrate on their work due to their sister's visitor. They worked hard to separate them, but their efforts were all in vain. They want to keep Jay away from their precious sister, but they really can't afford to make her cry again, so they have to endure and watch him carefully. Theo voices his concern about Celine's health. She's already 12 years old, but her physical age is 7. He is worried if her body is holding well while using magic. Everything is suspiciously calm around her right now. They might be standing in the eye of the storm. The sound of wood smacking on wood echoes on the training grounds. Preoccupied with his thoughts about the princess, Ian swings his wooden sword at the training dummy. Meanwhile, one of the knights mentions to the prince the arrival of the Sperato children. Theo growls in response, unhappy about the arrangement. Ian sees the carriage passing. He locks eyes with the blue-eyed boy for a moment, making him a little uncomfortable. He goes back to training right away and decides to focus on it. But no matter how hard he tries to focus, his mind still wanders to the princess and the other children. He feels a little envious of them. Due to their status, they don't have to keep their distance from her, unlike him, who fears even greeting Celine properly. Upset by the thought, the dummy he is hitting falls apart, split cleanly into 2. Theo, who is observing the boy, is impressed. He believes the boy can become a sword master without much difficulty. He approaches Ian and compliments him, which spooks the boy. Ian dashes away. Meanwhile, the children say their goodbyes after a day of playing. They pinky promise to correspond through letters and that they will play again. Jay blushes, his heart pounding in his chest. There's definitely something there. The Speratos get in their carriage and they wave their last goodbyes as Lisa snores in the background. Jay settles in, ready to go, but he sees from the corner of his eye Celine talking to a black-haired boy. Celine calls out to him cheerfully with no hint of the disappointment he expected from avoiding her. She's truly a kind soul. He gathers up his courage to step 3 steps closer and greets her back with a shy hello. She does the same, making him blush even more. Now that he has greeted her, he decides to go back to train. Jay witnesses the interaction and it concerns him. Is he jealous? Oh! Later that night, Celine gets ready for bed. The maid notices the little princess's happy demeanor. Celine tells her about her eventful day. She got to play with friends and she was greeted by Ian. Celine looks at herself in the mirror. She's smaller than Lisa when she should be older. She wants to look 12 years old. Wishing to herself, she looks back at the mirror. A 12-year-old version of herself looks back. Celine stares in disbelief, looking at her 12-year-old self in the mirror. Is that how she's supposed to look at her age? Out of nowhere, a voice speaks, distracting her from her reverie. It's Theo, asking what could possibly be in her mind that she did not notice his presence. She replies that it's nothing, when in truth, she still ponders about her supposed appearance. Theo then carries her, telling her she will have to sleep with him that night. She asks where their father is, and he explains that he has some work he has to attend to. True enough, the Emperor is out in the forest, chasing assassins from the Dark Tower. With his black hair disguise in place, he swings his mighty sword with a vengeance. Once finished, he instantly decides to go home. Meanwhile, Jay is having trouble sleeping. He feels anxious and worried after witnessing the earlier interaction between Celine and Ian. He wants to know what sort of relationship he has with the princess. Poor child, he can't figure out why he's feeling this way. Oh, young love. Celine, on the other hand, has been endlessly happy recently. She has been spending more time with the Sperato siblings as well as getting closer to Ian. However, everything comes crashing down when Jay informs her that he'll be attending the academy soon, which means that they will not see each other for 7 years. Celine is devastated, but she tries to hide it. She doesn't want to be selfish, but she doesn't want him to. If only she was as big as him, then she'd be able to join him. With that thought in mind, sparks of magic suddenly begin appearing around her. Jay tries to reach out to her, but it's too late. Her magic becomes out of control, throwing Jay to the ground. The Grand Duke and the Emperor arrive instantly, concerned for their children. When Loren arrives, he tries to enter the area where Celine is, but his father stops him, knowing that he and Celine might get hurt. The Emperor attempts to get closer to the princess himself, even as the magic tears through his skin. There is certainly nothing that a father would not do for his child. The last thing that Jay remembers about that day is the loud crackling of lightning and the smell of blood. Right before he loses consciousness, he sees the Emperor frantically taking his daughter to the doctor. He never wished to say goodbye to her in this way. Meanwhile, Loren explains to his father that Celine has used enormous amounts of magic to reverse time on her body. She managed to use such a high-level magic even though she was still young. Due to overexerting herself, she'll be in so much pain once she awakens. The Emperor then orders his son to put her to sleep until her body settles to prevent her extreme agony. Later on, Loren is exhausted as well. When he stumbles as he is walking down the hall, Theo manages to catch him. Despite his brother's protests, Theo carries him on his back. Loren expresses how sorry he is for not protecting Celine enough, and Theo berates him for his bad habit of always blaming himself. In fact, he was quite thankful that Loren was able to respond swiftly when their sister was in trouble. Suddenly, a frantic Trail comes running toward them, asking about Celine's state. Theo assures their youngest brother that Celine is strong. He tells them that soon their little sister will be smiling and running towards them again. Later on, the Emperor summons Ian to his study. According to Trail and Loren, Ian's abilities have improved tremendously. To Ian's surprise, the Emperor has decided to send him to the academy and expects him to be top of his class. The Emperor tells him that this will be his final test before he can be an official knight worthy of protecting the princess. With determination in his heart, he vows to the Emperor that he will not waver. Before his departure, Ian is surprised that Trail is fondly giving him advice on how to survive in the academy. Loren gives him a communication stone, and Theo even sends him some medicine. With how the princes are behaving, he can't help but wonder if this is how having brothers feel like. Oh, Ian has gone through enough. He deserves to have a family too. Soon enough, he arrives at the academy. As a commoner, trouble finds him pretty quickly. A girl, Aris, daughter of Viscount Roberon, approaches him, asking about his family. Upon learning that he's a commoner, the girl offers him a job as a servant in their household. However, when he tells her that he already has a placement, the girl attempts to slap him. What a spoiled brat! Fortunately, a hand stops her before she can strike. It's Jay Sperato. When Jay receives his acceptance letter from the academy, his father warned him that he might regret it if he made rash decisions. Jay knew that once he entered the academy, he would gain high regard in society and build a foundation for the future. If he was still the old Jay, he would not hesitate to go, but now he was not so sure. Celine Leven-Lebastien was the princess who had returned, and there was so much more he wanted to know about her. The day he went to tell her of his acceptance, he was looking forward to her reaction. But then that accident happened. For the first time in his life, he felt anxious and powerless. He knew that there should be no hesitation. He vowed to graduate at the top of his class. At present, he steps in when he sees Ian being harassed. He berates the girl for causing a commotion and for not acting like a noble. He then tells Ian to follow him. As the two of them walk away, the other children begin gossiping, and one of them announces Jay's identity as the son of the fearsome Grand Duke. Avris's eyes begin sparkling, her mind declaring that Jay Sparado shall be her Grand Lord. What an obnoxious little girl! You better have an attitude adjustment first. Meanwhile, Jay asks Ian about Ian's identity and why he's in the Imperial Palace. Ian replies that he is a slave taken in by the Emperor, and he is supposed to become a knight. Jay then attempts to ask him about his relationship with Celine, but then takes it back upon seeing Ian's surprise, knowing how personal that question was. Instead, he asks about the princess's health. He is saddened when he learns that she's still unconscious. The two of them formally introduce themselves, with Jay asking to keep him updated about the princess. Jay then tells Ian to ignore the other nobles so his stay in the academy will be smoother. He shares how privileged they can be and often spouts nonsense. Ian is quite surprised that they share the same opinion. I can feel a friendship blossoming. Will this complicate things? Meanwhile, Celine finds herself in a dreamlike place. There, she finds her mom. She quickly runs to her, telling her not to go. As her mother wipes her tears away, she tells her that she will have to make a decision soon, and she will love her no matter what she chooses. In the academy, Ian's troubles are not over yet. He is just trying to get to class when some snotty noble kids block his path. He remains silent as they continue to mock him for being a commoner. Geez, why are these kids so pathetic? Leave poor Ian alone. He is rather annoyed at this point, but he has to ignore them. Out of nowhere, Lisa, the spitfire that she is, intervenes. She is so terrifying that she manages to send the boys running with just her fiery words. Take that, brats! Ian thinks about how different she acts in the palace versus how she acts here. Lisa turns to him and asks him why he allowed those kids to treat him like trash. He explains that he doesn't want his grades to be affected if he acts too harshly. Suddenly, the Grand Duke arrives, shouting at his daughter for wandering about like a goat. I love this love-hate relationship. They really are like two peas in a pod. Before she leaves, Ian thanks her for helping him, so she tells him to handle it himself next time. Turns out, Lisa is determined to go to the academy earlier so that she'll graduate at the same time as Jay. She will not allow him to spend time with Celine while she's away. Back in the Imperial Palace, as Theo watches over his sister, she awakens. He instantly asks her how she is, hugging her close soon after. Celine knows how worried her family is for her. For the first time ever, her father even scolded her. Her brothers even decide to intensify her classes as soon as she recovers. But then she learns that all three of her friends are now attending the academy. They all left to pursue their dreams. Celine herself wishes to start building her future. She intends to control her powers to avoid hurting people. She vows to get stronger. Unbeknownst to her, another tragedy strikes their family. Their mother's body has been stolen. The Emperor is determined to find his wife, but Loren tells him it's enough. Loren wants her father to understand that their mother is no longer with them. He has to let her go. He wants his father to stop neglecting himself out of guilt. However, the Emperor is determined to find his wife. Loren threatens to stop himself if he continues down this path, even if he will be known as an immoral son. That is when Theo interferes, reminding them of what's at stake. If Celine's powers are discovered, people may sneak into the palace, so both their father and Loren have to stay in the palace. Theo intends to look for their mother himself. In the academy, Ian instantly tells Jay that the princess is awake. Jay is visibly relieved, thanking Ian for telling him. They are currently in the training yard, and they witness Lisa's prowess in swordsmanship. Jay explains that her skills in sword wielding are the reason why she received a recommendation letter despite her age. Ian then asks Jay what he has to do to be able to spar with him. Jay grins and comments that he is not as skilled as his sister, but Ian believes that he will be. He agrees, but with one strike, he cuts Ian's sword in half. Ian is amazed, knowing that the young lord is a talented swordsman, only his skills are different from Lisa's. Suddenly, said girl comes to him, telling him that there is no use sparring with her brother since his style is different altogether while hiding his ability as a snake. Ian is not deterred, instead asking Lisa to spar with him instead. When she agrees, Ian is grateful. From then on, the three of them form a sort of friendship in the academy. After a tiring day of training, Celine is wondering how her friends are getting along. That is how her father finds her. He comments on how tired she looks, telling her not to push herself. Since there's a full moon that night, he invites her to see it with him. The two of them settle outside, enjoying the wonderful view. The Emperor asks if she's concerned for her friends, so she confides in him. She tells him how lonely she is, but it's fine that they're apart since they have dreams of their own. After all, the memories she has spent with them won't fade. She then asks her father what his dream is. A memory of when he was still with his beloved wife flashes in the Emperor's mind. However, he answers that his dreams lie with his children. As long as they are happy, he doesn't need anything else. I feel so bad for this gorgeous Emperor. He misses his wife so badly, yet he has to be strong for his children. Celine knows that despite her family sharing so much joy together, they also have to endure a tremendous amount of pain. When she lost her mom, she thought that she would be alone in the world. But then her father brought her home, back in the arms of her loving family. She even now has friends who she cherishes. She tells her father that someday she wants to be able to help everyone. After all, her father taught her that there was nothing more important than putting in one's best effort. The Emperor holds her close, telling her that she can do it. Time passed by, and letters exchanged between the four friends piled up. However, 5 years had passed, and they still haven't met again. Celine has grown up, and her skills improved a great deal. They have graduated, but they are scattered to their respective positions. They are only able to communicate through letters. Lisa has gone off to training for a promotion. She can only wonder how Jay and Ian are doing. Meanwhile, Theo is in a forest with a now grown-up Ian. He informs the Crown Prince that the tracks have ended in that area. Theo recognizes the place as neutral territory in the north. Celine is training when an incredibly tall trail surprises her from the back, causing her to scream. How did he get so tall? When she recognizes her brother, she instantly talks his ear out about the improvement in her magic. Trail then tells her that they should have dinner. He even informs her that they are serving her favorite dessert, causing her to brighten with joy. Her eyes are sparkling at the prospect of eating lemon cakes. How adorable. That is when Theo arrives, happy to be back home. She rushes to welcome him, hugging her eldest brother. But then she berates him for not coming home for months. She tells him that he could have at least visited. After promising that he will stay for her coming-of-age ceremony, he tells his siblings to head to dinner first, since he still has to talk to their father. As they walk away, the Crown Prince has a solemn look on his face. Theo arrives at his father's study to tell him that the trail led him to a neutral zone of the north. He believes that it belongs to a dark magician. He then informs the Emperor how Ian was a great help in this discovery. The Emperor is aware that this must have been the work of the Magic Tower. He knows that if he provokes them out of haste, they may have a war in their hands. So he tells his son to rest for now since they still lack information. Instead, he instructs Theo to prepare to ascend the imperial throne. However, he refuses, stating that he still has shortcomings and that there is no need for talks of succession until his mother is found. Theo wishes to have their entire family together on his coronation. The Emperor agrees easily enough, stating how his son inherited his stubbornness. Later on, the family is having tea together when Celine's coming-of-age ceremony is talked about. They are worried about showing her to the other nobles for the first time. They consider this a huge problem. Based on how these men are so dramatic when it comes to Celine, they will definitely create such a great fuss. They even want to hide her away. Celine, getting the wrong idea, assumes that they are embarrassed by her. But then they begin talking about how the men will definitely pounce like animals, waiting to have a dance with her. They even get angrier once letters and proposals from other men are discussed. Theo advises that she stamp on any roguish-looking men approaching her. Loren offers to break any man's legs for her with his magic. The Emperor himself suggests that they hold the ceremony amongst the imperial family instead. They see no need for anyone else. Celine has to endure their overprotectiveness. Celine is seething at this point. She can't believe her family. She springs from her seat and reminds them that this is her ceremony. She firmly points out that she is all grown up now. How can she forget what kind of family she has? For sure, the ceremony and ball will all go how they want them to. She can't let that happen, so she decides to interfere. She expresses that she is confident enough to stand tall in front of others. After all, she is a member of the imperial family. To her annoyance, her father tells her that she's still young and small in his eyes. Theo even suggests that she eat more and grow more. Celine comments that she can still grow taller just like Trail. The idea of his little sister being as tall as their freakishly tall brother does not sit well with Theo. He instantly takes his word back, telling Celine that she is fine the way she is. Loren even adds that Trail is disgustingly huge and that Celine is already perfect. Meanwhile, Trail is not liking the situation one bit. Just why are they attacking his height? Why would they do him dirty like this? Leave the tall baby alone. A petty quarrel begins between Theo and Trail, with Trail commenting that Theo is merely jealous that he's now taller than him. Meanwhile, Loren is already holding up a memory ball to capture their pettiness in real time. Celine can only laugh at them, saying that they may even fight when they go to select her dress the following day. Later on, Celine has finally completed a task. She stretches her arms before asking Mel if her father and brothers noticed that she was doing earlier. Fortunately, they were too mesmerized by her cuteness to even notice. Mel assures her that they won't remember the dresses she tried on. The princess can wear the dress that she already selected with ease. Celine is happy to hear this. All that's left for her to do is to practice the facial expressions that the Grand Duchess has taught her. She recalls her saying that people will be observing her in the ceremony. There will be those who support her, but there will be those who think ill of her. After all, she is known as the cursed princess who has been hiding. She can't show any weakness, for they will attack her without a doubt. Celine assured the Grand Duchess that she was no longer weak. The ceremony will be her first step into the outside world. Together with her family, she prepares to enter the hall. She wants people to watch closely how she shall not become a cowardly princess who hides anymore. Meanwhile, 3 people arrive for the ceremony as well, all eager to see their friend for the first time in 5 years. Unfortunately, on a day meant to celebrate her, tragedy sneaks up on all of them. When they are all supposed to enjoy themselves, one of the people in the ceremony, one who is precious to our princess, is lost. OMG, guys, that was quite a cliffhanger! Unfortunately, the story appears to be on hiatus for a year now, so we may have to wait a little longer to find out what happens next. Don't worry, guys, we'll continue recapping once an update is posted. We appreciate you.